everybody. I'm Chris.
I'm Ben.
Together we are Priority Traffic Podcast.
Today we're going over our topic, potential. We're going to teach you the frameworks on how to build a foundation so you can help hit your maximum potential.
Perfect. So today we're really wanting to dig into the idea of potential, what it is, who it pertains to, and kind of how it can apply to you. We want to touch on a few topics here. Basically, we have 4 points that we want to make that we believe are going to help you start moving in the right direction towards fulfilling your full potential.
Absolutely.
The first one we're going to talk about is self-awareness. But before we get too deep into that, I really think we should define potential and what we're going to be working with here. Get a working definition of what potential is.
I agree. So what is potential?
So for me, I see potential being it's a future that doesn't exist that we have the opportunity to impact, that we can potentially affect. So I have a future version of me in the future that doesn't exist, but everything that I think, do, create, and interact with today is going to impact that future me. So that's what I think potential is. If I train something today, I'll be better at it tomorrow. If I put in the work today, that will provide fruit tomorrow, for instance. So that's kind of where I'm operating from.
So it's like extended gratification. You're not getting anything right now. You might get something tomorrow. That's a small thing. But you have this grand plan of where you want to be. And like you said, your future self. Maybe you want to be living in Florida on a boat somewhere. Maybe you just want to be a healthy individual who loves his job, loves his wife, loves his family. Mm-hmm. How are you going to get from point A to point B? Small incremental steps along the way.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, cool.
So looking at potential, we really need to kind of understand what it means to fulfill our potential. And there's a guy named Maslow. He has this hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. It's a pyramid, and we can post it up right here on our video. But basically, it's got your basic needs on the bottom, and then above that, it's going to be safety. And then what is the other one?
So it starts with psychological needs. Level 1, it's food, water, warmth, and rest. You got to have your home. You have to have the food that gives you enough to nurture your body to continue to move forward.
Sure.
Our level 2 goes up one step on the pyramid. That's your safety needs. You have your security, your safety. Moving on to level 3, higher in the pyramid. Belongingness and love needs. It's your intimate relationships and your friends. So who are you going to surround yourself with? Who are you spending the majority of your time with?
Your social network, the people at work.
Yeah.
Kind of like that environment that you find yourself in very often.
Majority of the time. Who are you going to surround yourself with, and are they bringing you up?
Right.
Going to level 4, your self-esteem needs, your prestige, feeling of accomplishment. Okay?
So like achieving goals.
Yeah.
Like how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
Self-esteem.
Right. So you want that self-accomplishment. You don't want to have a burnout where you don't have enough going in, doing 10 things right doesn't affect you, but the one wrong thing does.
Right.
So you want to be focused on the good.
Sure.
And then moving up to the top, level 5, it's self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities.
So this is going to be beyond like your profession. And maybe you self-actualize in your career where you become everything you thought you could be. But now you're also creating things. For instance, we're creating a podcast. We're self-actualizing in the realm of podcasting. So we're bumping elbows with our comfort zone and saying, hey, we're going to try and do this.
Yeah.
So,
I know for a fact that I'm not a big fan of being on a camera or listening to my own voice, but here we are,
It can get pretty heavy sometimes. So Maslow, he was known as the father of human potential and self-actualization.
Okay.
He developed this, and he believes that all humans are inherently trying to self-actualize, right? Once all the fundamental needs are met, from level 1 up to level 3 and 4, we can start to self-actualize. And it seems like we were just having like a little discussion off camera, but the conversation took a turn where you can't really skip levels. Like if you are at level 1, you can't just skip to level 4 where you're worried about your esteem needs.
Yeah.
And they kind of work simultaneously, but you still have to establish the physiological needs: water, food, rest. You need those, like, to live.
Yeah, and we almost put it in a context for anybody that's familiar with video games. I'm going to say there's probably a vast majority of the people that are going to listen just because they are so popular.
Absolutely.
Imagine going to, you're being like a level 2 guy, right? And you barely know how to play the game, but you're going to go to level 10 and try to beat some kind of boss. You're going to have a tough time because
Sure.
you don't have the tools. You haven't mastered the tools. You probably have a lot of stuff that you need to acquire throughout, like the quest, what have you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the basic fundamentals on your life locked down, it's going to be hard to move back up. So once you sit there and you're safe, you have food, water, shelter.
Which most of us do. Not everybody.
Not everybody,
Right.
but
There are places in the world that haven't acquired those physiological needs.
yeah. And we're lucky enough, knock on wood, that I know I do, you do, majority of the people I do, or majority of the people I know have it.
Absolutely.
And so once you have those locked in place, you feel comfortable, you can start moving up. And based on this hierarchy, once you have your basic needs, which is the food, water, warmth, rest, you have your security and your safety, then you go up to your psychological needs.
Yep.
Your fitting in with your network, the belongingness and love needs, your intimate relationships, your friendships, your friend groups, your circles, the people you go and relax with at work, go on vacation with, you see at the gym, whatever, right?
So
your community.
Yeah, your tribe.
Yep.
Your community. CrossFit has a big community. So there's, like, for instance, CrossFit has the big community, and then there's boxes, right? Like local Fenton boxes. They all are like a community, and then you have within your small box, and then you have within that you have like little cliques of people, and
absolutely.
So there's definitely levels of belonging all over the place.
Yeah.
And being a part of that is a fulfillment that we need as humans. And that will actually allow us to move up into level 4.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of these behaviors that we're discussing, we're by no means experts when it comes to this, but it really helps set the stage of, if you want to achieve your potential, there are some base needs that you have to have covered, right? You have to have a place to live. You need those things. You need shelter over your head. Maybe you need income. Maybe you need goals. Maybe you need certain things, but these things are going to help us move up that hierarchy.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop you right there and kind of tee off that, and I'm going to give the why. Why do you need these things? Well, the why is, if you have a goal, you have a certain amount of bandwidth that you can provide every single day to this goal. You are going to burn yourself out if you're worried about, when am I going to get my next meal? My car might not start, and I got to go and try to get this job interview done. And all you want to do is get this job. Well, if you can iron out when you're going to get your food, your car is going to be good, then all you have to do is focus on getting this job. Right? Makes things a little bit easier. It stretches you, it stops you from stretching yourself too thin. Because once you stretch yourself too thin, it's hard to focus on anything.
Right.
And you really have to stay focused. And that's where it kind of comes into the discipline aspect of this.
Sure. I think discipline is going to be one of the key factors in being where you're at and getting somewhere else. And typically lack of discipline will get you somewhere else, but it probably won't be a favorable place where you want to go. But the discipline that we're talking about, the willingness to show up, the willingness to stick to the plan, implement the objectives, or, focusing on the right tools, that's going to take discipline, and that's going to move you closer to achieving full potential, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
I agree with that.
So again, according to Maslow, he thinks that everybody has an ideal self. So me and you, most people out there would envision themselves a certain way in the future, and that future self is the person that we need to try to develop today.
Yeah.
Right. If let's say, for instance, you wanted to do,
it doesn't even have to be anything super crazy. Like right now, 26 years old, like I look at my life, I am shocked to be where I'm at right now. I've made a ton of great decisions. I've had a lot of downfalls along the way, but you fall down 7 times, you get up 8, right? And like I said, lucky enough to be where I'm at, and extremely grateful, but I still have dreams and things I want to accomplish. 26 years old, I'm looking at things like getting a home and first-time homeowners. I'd love to have that. Where am I going to be when I'm 40 years old? I'd like to have a family. I'd like to have kids I love, a wife that I love, going on trips,
Yeah.
financially stable. I'm happy with my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be one of those people that you escape to work or you have different vices.
Sure.
Like, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be on a bunch of medications. I don't want to be at risk for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Being happy, healthy, financially stable, that's where I want to be. I want to be able to provide for my family, love my family, spend time with my family. That's kind of where my goal is.
That sounds like a pretty honest and well thought out place to be.
Yeah.
So you've actually done a few things on our list, but before we get to that list, I wanted to just talk about a few things that you could avoid doing that are going to help you in this pursuit of reaching your potential. We have 3 what not to do's. The first one is going to be try not to look for shortcuts. There's no easy way through the difficult stuff. You got to face it head on. You have to tackle it with everything you can. Having more resources, having support from your circle and your people, that's really going to help. But there's not a lot of hacks to this, and the term hack is quite used differently. Like when you think of a hack, you think of like a cheat code.
Yeah.
But in real life, when you're a hack, you're actually not very good at something.
No.
Like you kind of do it, but you're not very good. So try not to find the hacks. If you have a goal and you want to do something, you have to put in the time. You have to have patience. You have to have perseverance and grit. You have to push and work and have the discipline to continuously show up.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. And I think it goes back to the hierarchy. If you hack the first 2 steps to get this job, but you don't have a reliable car or you don't know where you're going to live, where your next meal is going to be, you're kind of jumping the gun and you're preparing yourself to fail. You fail to prepare to fail.
Yeah, I could see how that would relate for sure. The second try not to do, the don't do or the do nots, is going to be make excuses, right? We have to start taking responsibility and accept where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't keep blaming the conditions or the environment or other things for all of this stuff that has come upon us. We kind of have to start taking responsibility for everything that we're involved in.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect. I'm going to make mistakes the rest of my life. I always say, hopefully, when I make a mistake, I make it once.
Right.
You learn from it.
Absolutely.
Right? And so when you do make a mistake, you don't want to be the one pointing fingers at someone else when it's on you. You need to take ownership on what you do, and that is where, good or bad, you're going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks to make mistakes.
It
sucks to be the guy that let someone down.
Right.
You don't want to be that guy, but it may happen. So when it happens, own up to it. You will become a better person because of it.
Yeah. And the quicker you can say, oops, that was my bad, like we've learned in the fire department, anytime you make a mistake, that the quicker you can own up to it and raise your hand and say, that was my bad, there's not going to be nearly as much stress and anxiety involved in that. But if you tuck your tail and you're like, oh, maybe they won't notice or maybe they won't find out it was me, it's going to come out in the wash. You're going to have to sleep with that. You're going to have belly aches, and it's just not going to work out very good. So step number 2 is try not to make excuses. Don't blame people and take responsibility.
Yeah, I like that.
The third one is going to be a little secret, being able to be a time management professional.
Yeah.
Like, A, know how long it's going to take to do most things. B, able to appraise how long it'll take you to get the job done. So if you have like a paper to write, for instance, you're like, oh, it's going to take me an hour. And in actuality, it takes you 3 hours. Now you're behind. You haven't got much done and you're stressed out because you had other things scheduled and you had to cancel those things. And now those things are bleeding over and it's just a wash for the rest of the day.
And so on the don'ts, I would say, don't be the one to waste time. Don't go and estimate how long something's going to take. Make plans based on that and have it be a fudged up plan.
Right.
Because then you're going to be unreliable, you're unaccountable, you're going to be late in other people's eyes. They're not going to invite you to things. You aren't going to get the promotion at work. You need to be accountable and reliable to move on.
I would say absolutely.
Yep.
Those are 3 really good ways to start catching bad habits in the process of getting closer to our self-actualization or reaching our full potential.
Yeah.
So next we're going to talk about 4 things that we have that are going to help you start moving in the right direction. Hopefully these tools can help you get closer to your potential, start excelling in things that you wanted to excel in. These things they expand and can be used amongst a variety of what would you say, goals, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't just pertain to fitness, or it doesn't just pertain to anything specific.
The 4 things pertain to life in general. Anything you want to do, anything you want to accomplish, anything you want to get better at, these 4 goals can be aligned with.
Absolutely. So number 1, we're going to say it's very, very important to start with self-awareness.
Yep.
Self-awareness is really a good understanding of who you are, what drives you, your good habits, your bad habits.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think the best thing about that is looking at your downfalls.
Right.
So self-awareness, understanding where you're lacking. Everybody's good at stuff. There's for sure. Maybe they're a good talker. Maybe they're the life of the party. They're always on time. But where are they? Where's the downfalls? Are you bad with money? Are you bad at planning? Are you bad with relationships? So understand those things.
Yeah, your weak points. And that is not to say that we are going to focus on our weak points, but we have to know where the leaks are.
Yeah.
Right. So self-awareness is really going to start moving us forward. We're going to consider things like our values. What do we hold as personal values, core values, personal beliefs, whether you're religious or you are spiritual or however you tackle that? All of those things are going to come into self-awareness, and you have to start recognizing them and integrating them into your daily behaviors and into your habits. The second thing is going to be, let's talk about goals. Goals are pretty big deal.
Yeah. So like I said, my overall vague life goal, where I want to be with family, financially stable, healthy. Goals are important because you know what to shoot for.
Absolutely.
Like I need to understand, you need to visualize this process. If you can't go and put a picture in your head of where you want to be, it's hard to obtain that. And as far as this podcast goes,
right,
we had a rough idea about where we'd be, what kind of equipment we'd need, how well it'd turn out, how well we could have conversations.
Sure.
But I think being flexible with the goals, we understand that we came together pretty quick. It's been 4 or 5 weeks, and we're way ahead of the process of where we thought.
Sure.
So now our goals change. We're flexible. We continue to move, pivot, and look at where's our weakest link.
Absolutely. And that takes us to from the again, as this podcast, it's a way for us to be creative and create some content. It's going to hopefully inspire people to make changes in their lives, to reach their potential, to start to question what they're doing and maybe implement new things and become a better version of themselves. But also, we have bigger goals than this, but this is definitely like the foundational thing. Like we have life goals beyond this to speak and have a massively positive influence on a greater number of people. And then even beyond that, we have our purpose.
Right.
Like our purpose, for me, I have my own personal purpose, but the purpose of this podcast is to I would say to develop a way or develop concepts that are going to inspire firemen and regular people to look at what they're doing today and just make a little change to make it better tomorrow.
That's the easiest thing. That's so well put.
So goals are really, really important when we're talking about fulfilling potential or becoming more or reaching our ideal selves. I think having goals and setting goals is basically a science in and of itself. And speaking of which, there's an excellent Huberman Labs podcast called Science of Setting and Achieving Goals. I'll post the link in the show notes, and you guys definitely check it out. It helped me with my personal goals, and it just digs in way deeper than we could ever imagine about goal setting and achieving. So give that a listen.
It's a great tool.
Then the third thing we want to talk on is going to be self-development. Like, what is self-development?
Self-development is where you are, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. You have so many different components with who you are. You are a husband, a firefighter, an athlete, a professional. You have all these different characteristics about you. And if you could put them on a number scale from 0 to 100, some might be in the 80s, some might be in the 60s, some might be in the hundreds.
Sure.
Right? So you got to pick those, figure out your weakest link, and how are you going to develop the weakest links to grow to make you better overall.
Right. So what would you say are some things we could look into? I know fitness and well-being is definitely something you could start to address. If you are not being very fit, if you are not getting off the couch, if you're not going for intentional exercise, that's definitely something you could start doing right away.
Yeah.
There's tons of research, there's tons of protocols on what to do, how to do it, and there's no question that fitness is going to contribute to you achieving more in your life.
Absolutely. And so that kind of tees off our 4 elements, which is one is health and wellness. Obviously includes fitness, it includes nutrition, how well you care for yourself, you're getting normal checkups, making sure that if you're on meds, you're trying to get off some of the ones that you shouldn't be on just because you're either being complacent with what you're doing, you're not getting the exercise in, you have high blood pressure.
Sure.
There's things you can take care of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the health and wellness, that's one of the elements. The second element is intellectual growth. Every day when you go and do something, you're going to have experiences where you learn. There's no doubt about it. You're going to go learn how to drive. When you're 16 driving, you're definitely not as good as you are as a driver now.
Right.
Did you take any classes? No, you took one class. You have a lot of experience in it, right?
Yep.
It's a lot like reading a book. When you want to learn about something, go buy a book.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of good information. Somebody spent a lot of time writing down 300 pages for you to take 5 takeaways.
Exactly. And speaking of a good book, again, on the idea of self-development and reaching our potential, a really, really good book is called The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. Again, I'm going to put that link in the show notes. Yeah. I read it. It changed the way I view things. It helped setting goals. It helped me understand the whole concept of flow, which is a completely amazing experience. And I won't give away the book, but if you're interested in reading books, The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. Again, I'll put it in the show notes. Please check it out. It's an excitingly awesome read.
Perfect. Well, you just got your first cue on what you can do. You go and pick up the book, check it out, and see what you can learn from it. Even if you take 3 key concepts of a book that takes you a month to read.
Sure.
There's 3 concepts you can implement to your life, make something easier, something better, make you a better person overall.
Absolutely.
Going on to the third element is financial stability.
Yeah.
When you're 17 years old, maybe you're very frugal. If you were like me, you were not. You like to have fun, go party, buy stuff you don't need, have a bunch of shoes, buy clothes, try to fit in. You weren't really planning for the future.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So financial stability, that's a big one. That's one of the key elements to having a successful and relaxed life, because stability is a huge thing.
Right.
Without stability, you have stress, anxiety, a bunch of different mental illnesses that can come down on you like a waterfall.
Yeah. Instability. Without stability, you have instability.
Okay, there you go.
And nobody wants unstable anything.
No. Yeah. That's bad.
That's bad news.
Unstable is bad. Going on to the fourth is something we already teed off kind of, is your social network. And who do you surround yourself with? Are you a 7 in a room of 10s, or are you a 7 in a room of 5s?
Right.
Are you trying to have personal growth among the people that you're with? Are you trying to learn? Are you trying to grow from them? Or are you the coolest person, most successful in the group? If you are, you should rethink your group.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are, like he said, a 7 in a room of 5s, whatever the topic may be, it could be fitness, it could be finance.
Right.
You are basically leading the pack, and you're likely not, again, bumping elbows with your comfort zone and making strides to be better. You've probably peaked, unless those people are very, very capable of pushing you in a direction. But typically, when you're the alpha or you're leading, you're not going to strive for more. But when you are the 7, that same 7, now you're in a room of 10s, people who have done tremendously more things than you in that area. Now you're really going to really push. So you really have to consider who you hang out with, who's in your circle or in your tribe, whether they're supporting you or holding you back, and how your community and that environment supports your thriving towards your future self.
Yeah, and that almost comes along with understanding your time and what the value is.
Right.
Because if you are the best, and maybe you're a people pleaser, you like helping out people, you can spend the next 5 years helping people out, trying to catch up to where you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good, honest gesture. That's what genuine people do. But as far as self-development goes, you want to be the person that is constantly wanting to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You never stop, go and teach.
Right.
You're
Right.
constantly learning yourself. And that's when you surround yourself with these people that have already done. And maybe they see something in you. Like, why would they let you in the room? Well, they see something in you that they see in themselves.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's no better feeling in the world than knowing that you've been accepted with a group that they're hitting 300s. They're batting 300.
Yep.
And you're trying to be like them.
Absolutely.
And they're taking you in. And you can go and learn very valuable things about them, about how they've achieved their goals.
Right.
These little small trinkets of just kind of their cheat codes without cheating.
Yeah, you're going to, just by proxy, you're going to learn things, and they're going to probably support you and give you hints and tips and tricks and likely negative feedback that's going to help direct you in the right direction.
Yeah.
They're going to say, hey, man, you're doing really good, but you're really not doing this well. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
Right? So now they're going to give you feedback that improves your self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like when you were with that other group, they probably stopped giving you feedback. They didn't want to get in trouble. Maybe they were intimidated. Maybe they didn't have anything to teach you.
Or your worst is still better than their best.
Sure, exactly. Right. So there's not a lot. There's like a ceiling there.
Yeah.
And then our fourth and final element to really achieving your full potential is going to come down to being disciplined.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about discipline in our last episode, but again, discipline, it is so important, and it's likely a foundational skill for everything in life, and maybe just life in general.
I believe you are 100% correct on that. Without discipline, you are not continuing to learn. You are staying complacent. You are not following the rules. You're sleeping in. You are being sluggish, eating fast food, taking the easy route.
Yeah, you're doing the shortcut.
Yeah, and even when you have discipline, it's got to be a continuing effort.
Right.
You might have hit your goal. Maybe you want to go to like a bodybuilding competition. Not always put it in like the gym aspect, but it's easier for people to visualize, right?
Yeah.
So you go and you're getting ready for this competition. You're 4% body weight or 2%, whatever the low one is.
Right.
And you're looking like a stud. Well, you hit your goal, man. You got first. Where are you going to be a month after that? Are you going to continue on and say, all right, I hit this goal. Now let's rock this goal and push on to something else? Or are you complacent? Maybe you go and put some weight on because you already got the trophy.
Right.
Been there, done that. So discipline is something that is continuous. It needs to be continuous in your life because you can become complacent. And when you become complacent, that's when you start falling off.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you are a 7 doesn't mean you can't fall back down to be a 5.
Right. Yeah. You definitely have to keep showing up. You have to keep putting in the work. Like, again, we are built on this foundational system that is always falling away. Like, you just won that bodybuilding competition, and that foundation, that win, is going to last up until the next morning. Right. And then you wake up, and now you're just some guy who won a bodybuilding competition. And what are you going to do next?
Yeah. You're only as good as your last feat.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think being able to continually push yourself and strive in any facet of your life, whether it be fitness, health and wellness, finance, relationships, any number of directions in your life, you should always at least consider trying to grow.
Yeah.
Right? Your mindset should be, I don't know everything about this. I can learn something and I can move forward. And maybe that will allow me to be more well-rounded, which will lead you closer to your highest version of yourself.
Yeah. I have this written down right here. It says, sustaining success and high levels of potential requires deliberate focus, a solid foundation, and a healthy, balanced life.
Perfect.
And I think that just about wraps up all the elements that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Staying focused, you have the balance, and you have your foundation.
I think that sums it up pretty well. Do you want to do a really quick recap of basically what we talked about? Again, we wanted to bring potential as our topic today to dissect it and see what it looks like, how we go about moving through it, and if we can offer a few valuable tips on how to start moving closer to your fullest potential, your highest version of yourself.
Yeah. So the cliff notes on this podcast is going to be everything starts and ends with discipline. You're always going to need to continue using discipline if you want to be the best version of yourself. You have to step out of your comfort zone.
Always.
Nobody grows in their comfort zone. And the reason being is, even if you take a shot in the dark and go do something, you might fail, but you're going to learn.
Right.
And if you don't fail, you learn in a good way because you succeed, and nothing feels better than succeeding.
Sure. You hit the mark.
Yeah.
Right?
And so you step out of your comfort zone. Next one is have a plan.
Yes.
Because doing anything where you're shooting in the dark, you have a higher chance of failing than succeeding.
Right.
You fail to prepare, you prepare to fail.
Right. Dartboard.
Yeah.
If you don't have a dartboard with a bullseye, you're just throwing darts at the wall.
Yeah.
And you're not even sure what you're doing.
Yeah, everybody wants to hit a bullseye, but if you don't have a mark, you're not going to hit it.
Exactly. You need a target.
So then a big one for me is do things alone. If you're able to do things alone, understand yourself, be happy with yourself, you're going to bring greater value to others. And you're not going to need different things from them. You don't need to drain on them. You can only gain from them. And they can gain from you.
Sure.
Also a very big one. You are not entitled to anything on this planet. You have to earn everything. You see people that are doing great things or hard things. Well, they took the hard path. Maybe they were set up at some point, but at one time or another, they had to put their nose to the grindstone and make it happen.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think that just speaks volumes of us where we are. We are by no means experts, and each week we try to adjust our show and for you guys to take value from our show, and hopefully we are making the right adjustments. And before too long, maybe 2 years, we will be professional podcasters.
Yeah.
Probably not, but that's kind of the goal.
Yeah. At some point, we're going to look back and laugh at how far we've come.
Right.
And where we started.
Exactly.
But for right now, we're loving every second, and we're still digging into this stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
All right. The last recap for this is respect your time because nobody else will. If you don't respect your time, people will waste it. If you don't respect your time, who are you? You have to stand up for something. You have to have a backbone. Mm-hmm. People will continue to use your time until it is finally gone. And you only have a certain amount of time on this planet, so let's make the best of it.
I think that is a really good way to start sliding out of this episode.
Yeah.
Making the most of your time, being present with those people around you, and just soaking up every second and giving it your all.
Yeah, well said.
So I'm Chris.
I'm Ben.
And thank you guys so much for listening to the Priority Traffic Podcast. We'll see you next time.